very unkind remark. Anyway, he wasn't about to change his mind about it. He handed them the keys, and that was the end of
So
the
he quit.
Yeah.
He quit doing it, yeah.
Well, you know, they basically said you can't drive a bus anymore.
Right, okay.
And so that was it. And like I told them at the reunion, we had the first integrated bus for about a week. I don't remember anybody making any comments about it to me. You know, it was, by our standards today, it was almost barbaric what white people thought and felt and treated black people in my childhood and growing up. We would shudder to think folks were so bigoted, and I don't know. It bothers me a lot today to know that that's how children, there were times when the little black children were walking to school. They had no school buses, so they walked long distances to school. And the children in our elementary school would throw rocks at them, you know, and if the principal found out about it, you know, they were punished. But that was the way they felt, that they could do that.
Well, I can remember, I guess this would have been in 57 or 8, maybe 4, I was 4 maybe. I think it was before we went to Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
That we went to the zoo in Jackson. And I can remember walking down the sidewalk to that, and when black people would approach, they would move off the sidewalk to let us move.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I can still see the colored signs on the restrooms and the water fountains. I mean, that sticks with you for forever and ever. Before we get to grandfather and his, tell a little bit about how your mother and father met.
They met in Florida. My mother's uncle, her mother's brother, was one of the first doctors in Miami, and he invented an X-ray machine. And she and Grace, they were in their early 20s, went down to Florida from Connecticut. That's where she was.
Grace was her first cousin.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were what we call double first cousins. Their fathers were brothers and their mothers were sisters. And the mothers grew up in Florida, both Mama's mother and Grace's. And they went down on a steamer, you know, on a boat from New York. I think they got on the boat in New York and went to Jacksonville. And then they got on a little motorboat kind of thing and went down the St. Johns River to a little town of Willaca, where her aunt and uncle and cousins lived, and they were going to spend some time there. And from there they went down to Miami to visit this uncle who was the doctor. And Daddy had gone down there to make $1 million. He was always going to make a lot of money. He never did, but anyway, he always thought he was going to. And he was, I think, working in a shoe store, or I don't know, I've forgotten really what he was doing, but he had a friend, and the friend was Grace's boyfriend. So he said to Daddy, you need to meet this person, this lady. And he did, and that was in the summertime. And they married in October, about like we did. And Mama said, and I know she's right, that he was the most charming person. You know, didn't have a grain of sense in his head, couldn't ever make a dollar. But he was just the most fun, charming, witty man in the world, and had a horrible temper, and so that was how they met, and she was kind of bowled over by it, because I think she was a very shy person, and she was just so enthralled with him, and then
So
that's
she
what
kind of fell head over heels.
she did.
They got married then in what year?
in 1912.
1912.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Florida.
They got married in Connecticut,
Okay.
and they got married. She and Grace got married at the same time. They both married those
Oh, really?
two guys.
Was she was she a kid when Mark Twain was living down the road from her?
Yes, she was. She was in high school
Okay.
when they moved to Hartford and lived there while she and her brother were in high school. So yeah, she knew him. I don't know that they were social friends, but everybody up and down that was kind of the street to live on in Hartford, and everybody knew everybody else. But
So they married and of course had 9 children, but she had two infants
Right.
that
Right.
died.
yeah, so they really had 11
Right.
children.
Right.
Yeah, one little girl died of diphtheria when she was 6, and they lived out in the country. There were no doctors, and just didn't have access to any health care whatsoever, except what Mama knew and could do. She really was by far a better health care person than any doctors we ever had. The little baby, I think, he was born about the time all the children had diphtheria, Woody, Joe, and Nanny Maud. And I think she just couldn't take care of it. And I think it was probably a very frail baby, and didn't live long.
So when did Granddaddy die? He died in what year?
1960.
So 1960, and then Granny died in
1985.
1985, and she was 90.
Almost 95. She was
95.
94. She would have been 95 in the fall.
Well, her father was, 72? 71 or 72 when he died
Yeah.
in 1960.
Mm-hmm.
He died about 3 weeks after Sally was born. Our daughter
Really?
Sally was born, yeah.
That's right. I remember that. I knew that. But yeah, 71 or 2 is pretty old.
Well, here again, he had a stroke.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about how to take care of anybody with a stroke in the little town of Louisville. They had doctors, but they didn't. Like today, Maud had a stroke, right before Christmas, and she's up going and doing well. So that was the difference in health care, even in the last 40. He was born in 1987, and she was born in 1890.
Yeah.
So he was only 3 years older than she.
Okay.